Good morning, Sisters Chapel and Spelman College community. My name is Whitney Bond, class of 2008, and I am so honored to lead us in today's devotional. Before we begin, I would like to thank my colleague, the Reverend Dr. Nichelle Guidry, for this opportunity, Mrs. Sally Burns for her continued support and with the life of the chapel, and to send a special hello and e-hug to all of our students in the AU Center. As I began to ask the Spirit to guide me for today's devotional, I immediately realized something. I, Whitney, needed to get still and quiet. I'm not sure about you, but it seems as if since the mandatory shelter in place has been enforced, our lives have actually become busier than they were prior to the pandemic. Our calendars are now filled with virtual courses, back-to-back Zoom meetings and conference calls, and online communal gatherings. And all of this is taking place on top of the pre-existing commitments that we had prior to the pandemic. For some of us, this increased busyness has helped to decrease our level of anxiety and our moments of panic. By keeping busy, it allows our minds to constantly remain engaged in other things and to remove us from what's actually taking place in our lives. When, culturally, we are used to operating out of busyness. When we aren't busy, it can be interpreted as wasting time. But actually, silencing our bodies and our minds is not only a way of life, it's a spiritual practice. As suggested by C'2008 in her work, The Spirit of Intimacy, one must become still enough in order to trust themselves and believe in their ability to hear. The pandemic, by this point has impacted all of us. And I mean in a multitude of ways. This includes, but is not limited to, returning students having to return home prematurely from the academic semester, determining how many times we can go out during the week and at what times to get essential items, now having to wear masks and gloves in the grocery store. And I know I saw a friend at Kroger the other day and immediately went in for a hug and realized in that moment that I couldn't hug my friend. And that was like, whoa, okay, this is actually a real thing. And then sadly, for some people, having to lose a loved one due to the virus and not being able to give them a proper burial. And by sitting still, all of this can cause us to remember this new reality that we have. Sitting still can reinforce that some of us have had to go almost 2 months without a hug or any kind of physical or human encounter from another person. And sadly, sitting still can also remind us that the government has continuously failed us, and it seems that there is no reprieve in sight. But even in the midst of this stillness, Spirit had to remind me that while all of these things are true, there are also some additional truths and some that are neither and or unknown. I believe this is the season that we're in, both and the unknown. An example could be a graduating senior who is, still being conferred a degree and able to accept a job offer in the fall, but also acknowledging that they wanted to enjoy the pomp and circumstance of commencement weekend. It could also mean the freedom of not choosing an emotion because honestly, some of us don't know what to feel at the time. And for those who identify as Christian, operating in this both and mindset is not often encouraged because it can suggest that one is not foundationally secure in their beliefs or in their faith. It could suggest that we no longer believe in God, the Creator. It could also suggest that we aren't using this time to strengthen our faith and our belief in our great God. But today, I want to release you from that fear. The panic that if you verbalize your fear as a result of the pandemic, that it speaks less of God and your faith that God is able to do all things but fail. I release you from trying to hold it all together because if you cry out of fear, then God is no longer the God of our weary years or of our silent tears. I release you from the belief that you have to repeat, God is not giving us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of sound mind. Because if you articulate your true feelings, then it means that God could possibly disown you. I say to you, my siblings, that I encourage you to lean into these very real emotions and feelings and know that God can handle your fear of the unknown, our fear of the unknown. And while many may not agree with me, I believe that God might even be surprised by some of the things that's taking place right now. Me, you, and God may share more in common than we actually think. We don't have to pretend to have it all together. And every day I pray, Iyanla Van Zant offers this prayer that I'd like to share a few excerpts from. Dear God, I thank you for the privilege of prayer. I am aware that prayer is my direct line of communication to you. I acknowledge that I can do more through prayer than I can do in my limited power. I am so grateful that in my darkest hour or my weakest moment, I can come to you in prayer. I am so grateful that when the hopelessness of despair threatens to overtake me, I can come to you in prayer. I thank you for the privilege of prayer. I am so grateful that when my abilities and knowledge are inadequate to meet the challenges of my life, I can come to you in prayer. I am so grateful that when I can't, you can, and you do come when I come to you in prayer. I am so grateful that when I don't know, you know, and you shower me with understanding and direction when I come to you in prayer. I am so grateful that when I don't know what to say or what to do, you provide me with divine direction and the power to speak the truth without hesitation if I simply come to you in prayer. I thank you for the privilege of prayer. I am so grateful that no matter what the situation may be, no matter how I am feeling or what I am doing, I can come to you at any time under all circumstances in prayer. I am so grateful that there is nothing you and I can't do together when I bring you any concern or request in prayer. I thank you for the privilege of prayer, for your swift response to every prayer I offer. Thank you, God, for hearing my prayer. Thank you, God, for receiving my prayer. Thank you, God, for the awesome power and privilege of prayer. For all I have received and all that is yet to come, I humbly offer my prayer as gratitude. And so it is. And as I was reading that and talking with some friends, I was reminded of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. As he was alone preparing to be killed by the state, he was so afraid that he bled blood, sweated blood. He didn't know the fullness of what was ahead, but he knew that he could go to God, his parent, with his fear, and that God would meet him with his solitude. And it is in our solitude and our stillness that even God can meet us. It is in these moments we can be reminded that while we are physically distancing from one another, it doesn't mean that we don't have to socially or we can't socially interact with one another. We can begin to find gratitude for how some situations had to die because of the coronavirus. We can remember that we are members of communities who want to see us thrive, even in the midst of this. So as we leave this place, but never God's presence, I leave you with a blessing shared by Audre Lorde in her biomythography, Zami. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession was ever left unaided. Inspired with this confidence, I fly unto thee now, O my sweet mother. To thee I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despite not my petitions, but in thy clemency and mercy, O hear and answer me now. Remember, God is ready to meet you in the stillness. Be well and be blessed. Have an amazing week. Bye.